Good morning, my friends, and welcome to the 10-Minute Book Talk, where three best-selling authors talk all things bookish with you for 10 short and sweet minutes every week. I am Marie Bostwick. I am here with my friends Rachel Linden and Katherine Reay, and we are here with the fabulous Jamie Ford, who's going to be talking to us about his new book, The Many Daughters of AFONG. But I have to tell you one thing about Jamie. Now, I've known Jamie for a long time. If you're not following Jamie on Instagram, you're missing out, because he may be the funniest man in literature, even though he writes very deep and meaningful, like intelligent books. You're a hoot. And here's the thing, I know I just found on Jamie's website. Jamie's like super famous, okay? And he has had his books translated into 35 different languages, but he is holding out for Klingon, because that's when you know if you've really made it, right?
I follow you right now, because I did before we got on the call.
Yeah, no, you got to do it. You got to do it. But anyway, Jamie, okay, enough of that silliness. We are here to talk about Jamie's new book. It is fabulous. It is so engrossing. I loved every moment of this. It's literary fiction, but it is very, very readable. It's a book that makes you think about what is, about your life, about the possibilities. So Jamie, enough of me. Tell us a little about your book.
Okay, yeah, thanks for having me. The book, The Many Daughters of AFONG, is, in a nutshell, about inherited trauma. And that sounds really heavy, so I tend to call it my epigenetic love story. What is epigenetics? Epigenetics is really the study of what we inherit. And when we think of genetics, we think of inheriting eye color and hair color. But the book explores the very real possibility that we inherit psychological traits like phobias and resilience, and in some cases, the ability or inability to interact and love other people. And so it starts with this central character named AFONG Moy, who was the first Chinese woman to come to America in 1834. It was a very real character. The story ends up in 2045, so it's historical and it's speculative. And in 2045, we spend a lot of time with this descendant named Dorothy, and she's sort of revisiting or reliving memories of past generations. And in all of these memories, there's a sense of longing and searching of someone seeking someone else. And that's all I'm going to say. Hope you enjoy it.
There is so much that you have packed into this book. And it's a book that requires you to really, you need to pay attention, because there is so much going on. But each character is distinct and has her own story arc. And there are in fact many daughters of AFONG Moy. There are 6, if I'm counting right, 6 different characters in this book. Yeah, each with their own story arc. My personal favorite, and I loved that you took us into a future time too. You took us into the Seattle area in 2045 during typhoon season, which honestly right now is starting to seem like a very real possibility. It didn't take that much imagining to see how that could be. I loved Dorothy. I loved her journey. But you tell us, was there a character who was your favorite in all of this?
My favorite was Greta, and her narrative takes place in basically contemporary times. It's 2014, and I've generally written historical fiction, so it's the first time I wrote in a contemporary setting. I loved it because I didn't have to do so much research.
It's so easy. Join us.
Yeah, it felt like I could just fly with wings, and it was wonderful. And it's very tempting to just now tell myself, like, I'm only going to write contemporary. I'm only going to write contemporary. And I definitely will revisit that world. But and also, she is a tech executive, and I was a super geeky computer kid. I went to community college when I was in junior high, and I was taking computer classes, and I eventually dropped out, becoming that rare 14-year-old college dropout.
It is fair. Well, I would love to know a little bit about AFONG Moy, your first generation of character, and how did you discover her story, and what inspired you to have her start this multi-generational tale?
Yeah, I first learned about AFONG in the early 90s. There was a full-page timeline, I think it was in the San Francisco Examiner, for Asian American Heritage Month. And they had like a timeline of all these interesting moments. And in 1834, AFONG Moy, the first Chinese woman in America, appears on stage in New York. And I had tucked that in the back of my mind for a long time. And I wanted to write about her, but there wasn't a lot known. Even though she was written up in 200 plus newspapers, because she traveled up and down the East Coast from Buffalo, New York to Cuba. She was put on display. People would pay tickets to go see her perform in a theater, and she would sing in Chinese, and they would look at her bound feet and things like that. But none of these articles have her speaking in her own voice, because she spoke very limited English. And so she was celebrated as this person, and almost perceived as like an ambassador from China or an intrepid traveler. But all of that, it really obfuscates the reality is that women couldn't leave China at that time. And if they returned, the punishment was death. And so it's more likely she was sold into this career, if you will. And her life ends mysteriously leaning towards the tragic. She disappears from headlines around 1850, and no one knows whatever happened to her again. There were rumors that she went to Europe to tour, that she went back to China, but the last newspaper article has her living in a poorhouse in New Jersey. And so I wanted to give her not just a voice, but a moment of redemption. And hopefully that's what we've done in the book.
Yeah.
I'm really curious. I'm always interested in reading stories, what the author meant for the big themes, what they wanted readers to take away. And you have such an epic story. I'm curious, what are the themes that are laced through these? What do you want people to take away when they close the last page?
Oh, the takeaway, I think for me, the takeaway with most everything I write is that I consider myself not just a writer, but someone in the compassion creation business. And anything that gives the readers empathy muscles a good workout, I think that's a good thing. I think there's sort of a deficit of empathy in our culture right now. And if you can take any piece of art, whether it's a book or music or theater or a movie, and inject that into the body of a culture, you can inoculate against some of the things that really cause strife, against sexism and bigotry and those kind of things. That's sort of my high-minded, overarching goal with most of what I do. With this book, I mean, really beneath the surface, this book is like all of my childhood abandonment issues on display for the world. And so I wrote it for myself, almost for like therapeutic reasons. And it's kind of a twofold mission to help myself and hopefully help readers along the way.
That is beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah,
it is. It is a powerful, powerful book. And something I really loved about this book, even though these characters, every generation has its own form of trauma that I think is building up, and you're bringing that through in the theme of inherited trauma. But I love that you gave us an unlikely but very hopeful ending. That there is a redemption that comes through, and I just was like, I just loved that. I'm not going to give things away, but it is sometimes in literary fiction there is such a pervasive sadness that it can be difficult. But in fact, these characters become empowered, and I love that. I love everything about this book. Everybody should go read this book. You should go. In fact, it's out now. You should go get it immediately. Drop whatever you're doing. Go to the bookstore, preferably an independent bookstore, but we won't hold it against you wherever you need to get it, or your library, and go get The Many Daughters of AFONG Moy by Jamie Ford. It is amazing. Jamie, as we wrap up, I want to ask you one very important question that we ask everybody here at the 10-Minute Book Talk. Jamie Ford, what is bringing you joy today?
It's funny that you ask. Today, I've been hearing the ice cream man driving around my neighborhood. So as soon as
that would bring me so much joy.
I'm going to run down the street with dollar bills in my hand. It's like 100 degrees out, and you just hear that music, and it's like Pavlovian from when we were children. Suddenly, nothing else matters but your desire to obtain ice cream. So that's my source of joy today.
That is I have to tell you, honestly, last week, I was sitting in the backyard researching a book, and I heard the ice. I dropped everything and And you
do.
know, but it's sad because ice cream used to be like 75 cents. I know, like it
I know, he just said he's going to grab his dollar bills.
I know. Yeah.
$5, but it was
they-
totally worth it.
They
So
take credit cards. They have like the square swiping thing.
it's
It's
wrong
just,
in some way.
it's
But
just so
anyway, well,
wrong.
I hope you get your ice cream. And my fellow readers, I hope you go immediately right now and go get a copy of The Many Daughters of AFONG Moy. It is a journey that is so worth taking. And Jamie, thank you for being with us today. Best of luck with this book. I know I don't even need to.
Thank you, Jamie.
Great.
I'll see you guys down the literary highway.
All right, sounds good. Bye, Jamie. Thank you.
Bye.